During Lunar New Year this year, we visited the Legoland Resort in Shanghai, and I just can't help but feel like I need to compare that to Universal Kids Resort in Frisco, Texas, because when they first saw all the media stuff coming out of the park, I just couldn't help but feel like it was just kind of loosely inspired. And so when we visited, same thing. It just really felt like maybe a cheaper version of Legoland Shanghai, a cheaper version of a newer Legoland concept, which would make sense because it's a family concept. But even with like the blocky hotel and the central waterway and the way you approach into the park, it just really reminded me of Legoland. However, the Universal Kids Resort is much smaller and kind of lacks detail. Would I say it was as bad as maybe everyone said online? I'll dive straight into that. No, I was personally pleasantly surprised, but the things that made the visit for me were not anything I didn't already know. It was really the customer service was so great. I just thought that everyone working there was so nice. It was so genuine. It was a really pleasant place to be. Very friendly, very welcoming. And for me, that carries a lot of weight.
Yeah, I think our expectations were where they needed to be in order for us to enjoy the park and to see the positives. Because, I mean, we were right in there with them. Like, people who went to the park and posted videos and pictures of this place. And some people, I think, had like an emotional commitment to loving this park. Certain influencers and people who love Universal or would really like to be on Universal's media list we're trying to say that this park maybe was something that it's not. And while there is some truth to that, there's also truth in saying that the park is perfectly fine the way that it is. It's seen some improvements since Media Day. I would start out by saying, first and foremost, that the landscaping has gotten better. Noticeably better for us, at least as far as we can tell. But yeah, as far as what's there and what they did do, it's not a bad little park. I do find it interesting though, the Rapids ride that is like the central focal attraction for this park is not a custom layout. You would assume Rapids rides, like that's not usually the kind of ride that gets cloned. It's usually just easier to build one for your, topography, but this is a Hefema River Rapids ride, and one of the only other installations of a Hefema Rapids ride is at Wild Adventures. And sure enough, you pull up Wild Adventures on Google Satellite, it's the exact same layout.
I mean, there's, I believe, quite a few of them in Europe, if I'm not mistaken. Did the one at Toverland, did the one
they're all over Europe.
Bobbejaanland, like, they have a lot of European ones.
But I don't think there's more than just
North America,
two
it's rare.
in North America. And they're cool. They've got the little whirlpool drop. But yeah, note for note, it's a clone of the one in Wild Adventures, which we rode and we really liked, which is good because the Rapids ride didn't open for us on our day at Kids Resort, so we'll just have to enjoy our memories of the one at Wild Adventures.
Hey, very good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Sean.
This is Alex.
And you're listening to another episode of Coaster Kings. And today's episode is going to be kind of short, but it will be in conjunction with what I was going to think is going to be the same week as Six Flags Over Texas. So look forward to that if it's not already live. And we're going to be talking about Universal Kids Resort. First of all, we had to visit because we are proud members of we visited all Universal Parks in the World Club. And so we were kicked out of the club temporarily. But now we're back in because now we are once again have visited all Universal Parks in the world. And so it was only fair that we had to go visit. And also, we need to see this for ourselves.
Yeah. And we were in Oklahoma City for a wedding. So we were like, let's go in through Dallas. Let's go to this Universal Park and check it out.
Speaking of which, if you're hearing any sort of quality differences with our usual podcast, we're recording this in a hotel room in Oklahoma, and we do not have our usual equipment with us, and we're sharing a laptop. So if it sounds a little bit differently, then we do apologize, but I do assume we're going to have a decent quality podcast ahead of you.
But yeah, let's dive right in. We I think we went in with like appropriate expectations. I don't think we were disappointed by anything that we experienced, but we also had a really good idea of what to expect. I think any disappointment we had came early with our impressions from other people's media of this park and the pictures and videos that we saw. But I think they've been making improvements. They've done some painting, they've done some landscaping, they've done some shade improvements, I think. They've added some benches. But as nice as that is, I feel like Universal is constantly always chasing reactions to things instead of proactively addressing things that are going to be a problem. It's just like Epic Universe, where like there was complaints about not enough shade and not enough places to sit, and then you go to the park and they add the shade and they add the benches. But like, A, you should already know that you need these things, and if you've built these things, you need more of them. And B, they don't necessarily look as permanent or as nice as they should because they weren't part of the original plan. But aside from those kinds of problems, and then the problems that arise from hastily solving some of those problems, the park is solid. There's not like, I mean, I don't know, you could do worse for $60 a day. I mean, it's still got a lot going on. There's a lot to do. And it's clean, and the staff are really nice. Like, that is the takeaway. That will be the common thread for this episode, is that being at this park feels like a premium experience, not because of the fixtures and the aesthetic, but because of how nice the staff are. And our visit, the park was basically empty, and there was more staff than guests, and all of the staff were just so friendly and seemed genuinely excited to see people in the park when we were there.
Yeah, I would say so. They were all really, really generally really nice, and so that made the big difference. It just seemed like it's a pleasant place to be when it comes to the customer service. I'm gonna go straight in and address the concrete allegations. Yes,
Yeah.
it is true.
Never escaping the concrete.
I was like, why is looking into the sun more pleasant than looking at the ground? It was just one of those things where like it was, yeah, like I had sunglasses on. I was like squinting a little bit. It was like really, really bright, and that's one thing I just don't get. Universal is a big company. I know this park was built in a budget. I know this park was meant for lower ticket value, lower spending. I get all that, and that argument has been thrown around a lot. But at the same time, you're not going to tell me they couldn't have done printed concrete. They couldn't have done some sort of texturing to the concrete, add more paint to the concrete, maybe like paint for every single area. Like that's, for the concrete, anything to absorb some light, because it is just incredibly bright and hot. And we were there on like the coldest day of the week, which is still like really hot, but in the summer, and it wasn't very humid because we got like a nice dry day, and it still really felt like I was hot. It was like even like riding the Shrek ride, which is mostly just shrubs and concrete.
Oh my god!
I was, we'll get to that in a little bit, but I was just hot the whole time. Yeah. So I think my biggest thing is that shade structures are nice, splash pads are nice, and I get all that, but fundamentally, if you're gonna build a park like that doesn't have mature foliage, the service the service being practically the worst color possible to reflect light in people's faces is maybe just not the right move. They should have done something with texturing or with coloring that would have fixed that problem, and that is not counting the Puss in Boots area, because the Puss in Boots Del Mar is like the only area that does have
that is like the nicest area.
Color ground.
It's in the back, so like that's your reward. Like getting to the back of the park, getting to Puss in Boots Del Mar is like your reward.
Well, now you're acting like it's that big of a park.
Yeah, that's true. The park is not that big, you guys.
The park is like half the size of Legoland.
It's very compact. But it makes for quick work. I mean, we walked in, you enter, the entrance plaza is the Isle of Curiosity.
It's a curiosity in a room with us right now.
Yeah, there's some definitely curious aspects of this, and it's not good curious.
Yeah, curiosity is like,
I'm curious as to like why there's so much flatness and boxiness in this park. Everything feels like square boxes with flat signs. Like they just kind of went over to a local print shop and had a bunch of stuff printed and laminated on like particle board and lacquered and put up. Like there's just not a lot of depth. There's almost like a lack of commitment to doing anything three-dimensional or substantial. There was I forget which video we were watching, but there was some blog that they made the point that like, well, gosh, I mean, it's almost as if they weren't committing to this product. Like they were making it so that you could, like, in 2 weeks, all traces of Universal could be gone from this place if you wanted. Like,
That's actually a really good point. I never thought of
you
that.
could,
Yeah.
like, there is such a lack of commitment to this that, like, you get 50 men and a paint roller, and, like, this place wouldn't be a Universal park anymore. Like, it would not be difficult to turn this into something completely different. So take that for what you will. My point being that, like, it just doesn't feel like any of the Universal, like, branded aspects of this park, with a couple of exceptions. Obviously, like we mentioned, like we've already teased, the Puss in Boots area seems to be on like a slightly higher echelon of quality than the rest of the park. But like, yeah, it's all very flat and like very easy to replace or paint over if they were so inclined. But yeah, so we started in the very flat and boxy Isle of Curiosity after entering through the flat and boxy Hotel Resort entrance plaza, where the turnstiles to get into the park are literally just colored cabinets with very friendly team members scanning tickets with iPhones. Like, it was weirdly unceremonious. We hung a hard left and went into the Trolls area to ride Rhonda's Troll Fest Express, which is the park's Zero Kiddie coaster. And it was indeed a Zero Kiddie coaster. And we rode it. And then we have, so there's like a little play area. There's a lot of like wash, rinse, and repeat. Like Sean said, the areas all have like some kind of dry area of play, and typically also a splash pad of some kind. Some areas just have one or the other. Some have both. And then like a lot of sensory areas, like sensory gardens, which I appreciate the idea of a sensory garden, except that some of the sensory gardens, while pretty, are not necessarily far enough away from the stimulation to serve the purpose that they are intended to serve. Or at least that would be our take on this. Trolls Fest is not one of the nicer areas. In fact, I think it might be the worst area in this park, just because it feels like the most flat and uncommitted of all of the areas, and like maybe the least substantial. It does have a show venue, which is nice. It has a big amphitheater. And again, the staff like in front of the show venue were so friendly and like waving and talking and like just happy to see people. We were wearing our Universal Studios Florida shirts, and there were people that thought that was cool. But yeah, like walking by like food venues and like some of the fixtures and the playground equipment, it all just didn't feel like it was like they wanted to do as little as possible and or spend the least amount of money as possible. Almost like this was like the whole park just kind of feels like a lesson in like dollar optimization. Like, they wanted to see just how much they could stretch their profit margin. Like, we spent $60 to get in here, and I don't think that's that bad of a price. But for some people, for a family of four, in fact, like while we were exiting the park, I heard a family of four talk about how like they felt like they just wasted their money. And it was like two parents with two kids between the ages of 3 and 8. That's literally...
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah,
didn't catch
you were in the bathroom.
Oh, yeah.
But I was like, my ears perked up because I was like, oh, damn, this is like literally the exact target audience for this park. And these people were leaving at like 1:30 in the afternoon. Same time Sean and I were, because we were leaving to go to Six Flags Over Texas. These people didn't have another park to go to in the afternoon. That was their day out, and they left after 3 hours complaining that they felt like they had been ripped off.
Well, admittedly, I just don't imagine, if there's nobody there like our day, I don't really think you need more than a few hours, because there is really not that much to do. And even though people are going to try and tell you that there is, yes, there's a decent flat ride collection. I'll give them that. But then when it comes to like big attractions or like engaging attractions, I mean, there's no dark rides. You're looking at a water ride that was closed in our visit, like a big water ride, 2 kiddie coasters, and like the outdoor Shrek ride. And then you've got a couple of flat rides and, you know, splash pad and playgrounds and stuff. But if you are really, you know, I can imagine there being some people that are really a little more ride focused. They're going to work through this park pretty quick. Splash pad wise too, I thought that it looked all right, but it wasn't like spectacular splash pads. I've seen much better at water parks.
I just think for a family of 4, you could entertain your kids just as well for cheaper. Some of these kids, I mean, yeah, they care about Jurassic Park maybe, or SpongeBob or Trolls, but like, man, like if you've got a 3-year-old, like they're probably just going to be just as happy with the community pool. in your neighborhood or something. That's the kind of stuff that this park is competing with. And like, I don't know how much success they're going to have
So let's give the
competing with
example.
more economic options for these families.
What were our tickets? It was a dead weekday.
Yeah, $60.
$60 a person. You can get a ticket deal for Six Flags online for $60 a person too. You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
feel like at the end of the day, even though Six Flags is not geared towards kids, there's maybe just as many kids-friendly or flat rides there. Yes, they're peppered throughout, and yes, it's not the target audience. I get that argument. But at the same time, I just think for a value, you're going to get just a little bit more of a... I just think that $60 gets you a lot further as part of Six Flags, where there's a lot more options.
Yeah.
Is it as clean? Is it as safe? Is it as customer service friendly as Six Flags? Maybe not. And I guess you do pay a premium price. But then at the same time, you could kind of expect maybe a Legoland, and you're not going to get a Legoland either.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard. Like, we're not the target audience, and so I'm not going to make any claims on whether or not this is a good value. But I am here to offer some perspective. Are Legoland parks a little bit more expensive? Yes, but I will say that Legoland Park is going to offer twice the kind of rides.
Yeah.
They're going to offer you several dark rides. They're going to offer you more roller coasters that are more varied. They're going to give you more landscaping, just as many flat rides. They all have water rides or splash pads as well. I just feel like Universal came for a product that's very similar to a Legoland, and you're getting a product that is inferior to a Legoland. So I'm trying to kind of see like what's Universal trying to get at? Are we trying to be like a cheaper Legoland?
Maybe you may pay half as much because Legoland's expensive, but dang, like the Legoland Shanghai experience we had, even though we're not the target audience for it, we were blown away. We spent hours there, and we were captivated. We only left because we had other stuff that we needed to do. Could we have filled a whole park day with activities at Legoland Shanghai? 100%. And it was busy. That place was packed. Like, part of the reason the ticket prices are so high at a place like Legoland is because the demand is really high, because they have curated and cultivated an extremely desirable, high-profile product. And Universal is trying to walk a fine line between doing something that's economical for families, but also doesn't feel super flimsy. And it's like, it might be half the price of a Legoland park, but you also feel like you're getting half the park, if that.
Yeah, the park is very small. I think my first reactions walking in was like, oh, wow, I could see the entire park from just walking in. And, another thing is that, we're in the Legoland discussion, I guess I'm just thinking about, is the fact that Legoland has an incredible attention to detail. Everything is Legos. There's all these Lego structures. There's Lego mini lands. The rides have pretty impressive queues. There's just like a dedication to landscaping and like thematic coherence that doesn't exist at this park.
Yeah.
I mean, you walk in and everything is the same kind of fence everywhere, but it gets like painted different colors and often very clashing ways, where like in one shot you'll see a blue handrail and a yellow handrail and a purple handrail and a green handrail and a white handrail, and it's all like in one. It's kind of clashy. Like, I don't find it to be cohesive areas and aesthetics, and a lot of it feels kind of like afterthought stuff, like all these acrylic panels they added, and all the netting they added.
Again, with Universal and their tendency to react instead of be proactive, like we saw with Epic Universe, where like Curse of the Werewolf was developed at the last minute. It was super rushed, and then like they had to keep adding more fencing and more nets because of like safety precautions, and like we saw a lot of that here. There was like several rides, particularly the Cretaceous coaster and like the Mrs. Puff boating school rides.
Oh, and the Troll Fest coaster.
And the Troll Fest coaster, where like there was like plexiglass and netting that was like zip tied by hand to existing features, like stuff that I'm like, okay, it gets the job done, but dang, like you guys didn't think about this?
Well, and then another thing I found kind of noticeable is that I almost feel like they kind of decided on what areas was going to be what later. So there's a splash pad, and there's a splash pad that is right by Cretaceous coaster, and it is a SpongeBob splash pad. However, the entire way it feels like SpongeBob area was actually not supposed to start until a little bit later on. So the queue for the Cretaceous coaster starts in Jurassic World and goes into like the SpongeBob land, and is really only separated by a mere fence. And then you walk back into Jurassic, and I just felt all of it kind of hokey. I don't know how. I just felt like I guess the biggest takeaway is just the finishes and the details are just not nice. It's all very 2D. It's all very flat. It's all kind of thrown together.
Yeah.
It's just like it's just like almost like an effort quality thing. And again, the argument I see online a lot that said like, well, it's a low price point, lower budget, but some of the stuff, even at a low budget, it's just it's kind of messy.
Or people will say, well, it's for kids. It's like, well, I don't have kids, but man, if I did, I would want the best for my kids. I wouldn't allow myself to get ripped off because my kids were, satisfied with inadequate things. So it's like,
again, the park itself isn't the end of the world. Like it's not a bad
everything
park.
here can be fixed.
I thought the Jurassic World Adventure Camp was fun. I thought that the Puss in Boots area was nice. Those two areas are actually quite nice. It's just that it's just not as nice of a product as I think they're trying to put together, and it's just like the product is not that good. I just don't find the product to be that nice.
I mean, one of the biggest areas for improvement, I think, actually, if we continue our loop, so we started Isle of Curiosity, we went through Trolls Fest. Besides the coaster and the playground, all that they have really is shopping, dining, a show venue, and then they have a Zamperla balloon tower, a Samba tower. And then you go into DreamWorks Shrek Swamp. And this area is actually surprisingly small considering like the cultural reverence of Shrek.
Well, it's probably because Shrek is split into two.
Yeah, I think it's because it's also split up with Puss in Boots area. Shrek does have what should be one of the marquee attractions. It is the only truly custom attraction in this park, which is the, Happily Ever After ride. Yeah. Shrek and Fiona's Happily Ever After. And oh my God, you guys, this ride had so much potential, but it is so not good. Like, there's 5 scenes, if you can even call them scenes. They're literally flat cutouts of flat little animated versions of the Shrek characters. The audio plays on a loop, even though they have the sensor triggers set up. It should be that the audio only plays when the car drives by the scene. But instead, like the first scene, which is right up against the midway, it just plays on a loop, and it is the exact same
Every
2
3 to 5
lines
seconds, yeah.
over and over and over. And you hear it 3 times or 4 times on the ride, and you hear it when you're walking by. It's so obnoxious.
What kind of mission? We're gonna
save a princess.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we get it. And you hear Donkey say it like 12 times before you finally move on. There's a part on the ride that feels like there should be a scene, but there's not. Like
just
there's
a wall.
There's this very lengthy gap between scene 4 and scene 5 where you think,
since the landscaping isn't growing, it's not like you go into through a forest and finding the next scene. It just feels like you're just waiting for something to happen. And if the attention span of a child is like 5 seconds, they're gonna get bored on this thing, and they're gonna get really hot.
Oh my God! Cars need roofs.
Yeah, it would be really cute to have
roofs.
One of my biggest commentaries is like, so I grew up on the Dutch-German border, right? And there was this grocery store that was kind of like on the border, and they had like slides and and like zip lines and stuff, and they had a couple of small rides where you would just like throw in 25 cents or whatever, and then you could ride, right? And they had a like car ride, kind of like this, like on like one of those hot rod tracks, whatever you call them. And it kind of went around like a theme of what are they called? Kabouters in English.
Clowns?
No, kabouter, like kabouter plop.
Trolls? Smurfs?
No, come on.
Kabouter. What is it? I mean, I know who kabouter plop is.
Like a gnome, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, a Smurf. Basically, they're basically Smurfs.
Okay. Anyway, so like gnomes, right?
Yeah.
So that was the theme, and that alone was like a nicer ride than this. I'm thinking to myself, a grocery store has like a little playground with like a little attraction, and that was like, it's like a nice experience than like the sun beating. I mean,
Americans cannot relate to the grocery store having rides, but man, if you're European and you come here, manage your expectations.
Well, yeah, because European kid parks are a million times better, which is also why when there's influencers and vloggers that are acting like they know the world of theme parks and they know the world of family attractions.
I've been covering these kinds of
kids theme parks. I'm really, really sorry, babe. You don't.
No.
Like a European theme park, and vast majority of our family theme parks are kiddie theme parks. The Netherlands is littered with kids theme parks. They are all so nice and so landscaped, and their customer service is also really great. And in Asia, the larger, newer generation kids parks, like the dinosaur parks from Phantom Wild,
the Booney Bears
parks, or the Legoland parks, those are
They're just
all
incredible.
several steps above what we're seeing here in Frisco,
Yeah.
Texas. And I'm not saying that 'cause, again, I didn't hate this park at all. Like we left being like, oh, it's kind of nice.
Yeah.
But it's just not what people say
Yeah.
it is. It's not what
People are
Universal says it is.
convinced, either knowingly or unknowingly, that this is something that it's not. And we don't want to, like, we're not trying to antagonize for the sake of antagonizing, but like we have no choice but to just express this, because we wouldn't be us if we weren't being, totally honest. But we want to say all of this with love and also back it up with our reasoning. I don't feel like any opinion that can't be defended isn't worth having. So when we say this, we hope that we are doing an adequate job of defending ourselves in the process.
I just don't want to sound too negative.
Yeah.
I think I want to explain.
Because we love
my
Universal
thoughts.
and we want Universal to be successful. And this isn't about LARPing on the park. It's about, this is what this park could do to be better. Speaking of better.
Okay, I will say before we move on, the funniest thing about this Shrek ride is I think they realized that people were like having heat strokes.
Oh my God, yes.
Because you wait to get back into the station, because they dispatch 3 cars at a time, right? They load 3 at a time, and then you dispatch, and then while you do that, they load 3 more, and then I think 3 more. Like, there's probably like 12, 9 vehicles on the ride. But when you come back, you have to wait to go back into the station. They installed these like temporary AC units that blow like air towards the vehicle, even though it barely does anything, because it's so hot. I mean, I will say I was sweating. I was dripping on that ride. I was just waiting to get off, dripping sweat. So they installed these little like outdoor AC things that I guess temporarily roll ups from like a Walmart or something. They can just, with extension cords,
but like,
just like blow some cool air if people
classic Universal reactionary behavior. But anyways, yeah. So the second half of the Shrek area, the Puss in Boots Del Mar area, it just has the one ride, the Wave Swinger, but it looks really nice. It's got a sensory garden. It has a little outdoor playhouse, and it has a large restaurant that looks really nice. And we ordered some food. We got the elotes, which were really good. And then they had a vegan tostada, which we got. And we had to have them make it again because there was hair in our food, which is unfortunate. But,
a little awkward, but it happens.
But it happens, it's whatever. And so they made us a new one, and it was pretty good. It wasn't that expensive. It wasn't overly salty, which Universal in Florida, for whatever reason, just like really struggles with over salting their food. Because we had a really good meal at Universal Studios Beijing at Hammond's, the Jurassic Park sit-down restaurant, and like that was really good. But then like we went to Mythos.
It's kind of funny
and
because like
oh my God, it's
the
so
Chinese love
salty.
salting their food, but the Americans somehow just make us over salt.
Putting us to
crazy,
shame.
yeah.
But yeah, pleased to report the Puss in Boots restaurant, the food was pretty darn good. All things considered. And from there, we went to Jurassic World Adventure Camp, which, like Sean said, is, I think, one of the more successful looking areas.
You can tell that this was a focus area because, first of all, the Jurassic brand's really big. Dinosaurs are in. I'm sure it's no secret to Universal Creative that, like, it's one of the singular most attended theme parks in Asia right now. In the top 5, if I'm not mistaken, is a dinosaur-themed kids theme park from Fanta Wild. Dinosaur Kingdom.
Gets like 4 million people a year.
It is like almost like the most successful kiddie park ever built. And so I'm sure that they kind of knew that franchise, everyone loves dinosaurs, kids love dinosaurs. It's been a trend. So I'm sure they knew to kind of focus on that.
And if you think Universal isn't looking at what the parks in China are doing, they are. They are 1,000% looking at what the Chinese parks are doing. Universal Beijing is a good example. Legoland Shanghai is a good example, and this dinosaur park that you're talking about is a good example.
So you can tell that like the biggest marquee ride there outside of the Bello Bay water ride is the Cretaceous coaster, which is a Mack ride. It's just a clone of the Beijing and Hollywood Hippogriff coasters. And so this queue was one of the nicer ones after you made it to the switchbacks where they have like the Jurassic World branding.
Huge queue.
Just the land has a climbing structural walkthrough thing. It has a DNA spinning kind of like tower ride that we did. Actually, it was really fun.
It was actually really cute.
And then they have like these 2 little drop towers and like a pretty decent little garden and playground. And so overall, aesthetically speaking, I think it's the nicer one. Landscape wasn't terrible. It's just that, again, a lot of white concrete. But for any sort of detail that this park is really lacking, this land maybe had the most of the detail. I didn't hate this land. I just thought that the floor was the only real issue, but everything else was kind of cute. And then it was a singular little dinosaur animatronic on the roller coaster.
Bumpy. Yeah, that's
know?
the one audio animatronic in the entire park. It is the one moving set piece in the entire park that isn't just like the Shrek and Fiona flat particle board moving set pieces. But yeah, this area feels more natural to its theme than a lot of the others. I think because like the boxiness and the industrial flatness of the construction of this park lends itself a lot better to the like sterile gray nature of like Jurassic World aesthetic. But then when you move into the SpongeBob area, the boxiness of the construction starts to feel a little bit more out of place again. It's another one of the bigger areas. It's got a lot going on. I mean, I grew up watching SpongeBob. This is the oldest franchise that's represented in this park. It's got a lot of rides. There's some cute touches and some cute references, but like, yeah, it's not super substantial and then just very concretey. The bus ride, the Rock and Tug bus ride, just feels like it is sitting on a weirdly large plot for what it is, and the concrete is just like so prominent. And there's no Krusty Krab. Not having a Krusty Krab restaurant here is a shame, unless they plan on like adding that later and doing a bunch of fanfare for it and like marketing it like an attraction. The lack of a Krusty Krab here is a crusty crime, to be frank. And then from here, completing our loop, the Minions area, Illumination's Minions versus Minions Bellow Bay Club. I mean, God, who names these areas? Like Nickelodeon's SpongeBob SquarePants Bikini Bottom. It's like,
well, you can tell they had to put the branding name in there. So if it's Illumination's Minions versus Minions is the theme.
Yeah.
Then like, yeah, and then the area name after it. It's funny because it takes up like there's more.
It's just massive.
The name of the land is bigger than the land.
Yeah, there's more words than attractions in these areas. So Bellow Bay Club is really the center of the park. It sits on like a little island that is carved out by the Rapids ride. It's directly across from the Isle of Curiosity, and it's not a huge area, but it does have kind of a nice presence with it being surrounded by water. The basin for the Rapids ride, like the run out basin for the Rapids ride is big and very noticeable, mostly from the SpongeBob area. Where the SpongeBob splash pad and the Cretaceous coaster meet, this lagoon is like probably the ugliest part of this park. And that's saying a lot because there's a lot of ugly parts of this park. Unfortunately for us, the Rapids ride never opened. When we asked them about it, they said that like maintenance had the ride all day and they didn't even know when it seemed like they might be getting the ride handed over to
they said like, oh, if you just kind of keep an eye on it today, if you see water running, they may test it and may open.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, that is so vague and nobody has any idea. So we ended up leaving before it potentially may have reopened, but there was no movement whatsoever. It was dry the whole day. Yeah. So
there was a little bit of water running in it, but just like an inch of water.
Well, I was thinking it had to do a little bit with the water effects being turned on still. Yeah. So all the animatronics and stuff like spouting water and stuff, that was all turned on.
So we got the idea. We were gonna ride it just for the sake of riding it. We weren't too heartbroken about not being able to ride it, and we were really eager to go to Six Flags and ride Tormenta anyway. So like we did 2 laps around the park, and
I will say we gave this park proper time. We rode the big stuff, and we ate, and we
did 4 rides.
We hung out, like we did the thing. It's just there's just not much to this park.
Yeah.
Again, I think this park is half the size of a Legoland park. I would say that with confidence about like Beijing or Shanghai, which is really big, but
But yeah, overall, we left feeling like I was pleasantly surprised based on just like the overwhelming negativity surrounding the park. But the real takeaway, again, was just how wonderful the staff interactions were. And if there was anything in this entire project that was going to justify a $60 price point, it was that the customer service experience was enviable.
I agree. The staff was amazing. Every single person we saw greeted us, asked how we were doing, interacted with us, complimented our shirts. It was one of those things where it was like, it was so pleasant. That's probably the best customer service I've ever received at any theme park. That's a big claim, but I will say that. It was just really, really nice and really pleasant. It felt very genuine.
It didn't feel like these were people that were being instructed to do the heavy lifting when it came to the quality of the experience. It felt like people that seemed to really enjoy their line of work and were happy to see
on all
people in the
levels.
park, and like every
Yeah.
level, everything from like food
Security
service,
to photo
custodian,
people. Yeah.
I mean, guest services, retail,
Yeah.
ride
So whoever did the
operators.
hiring there did a good job with that.
Amazing.
I'll give them that. Now, like Alex said, we did leave thinking it was a little better than we expected. And again, mostly because of all the negativity, but I'm not going to beat around the bush and act like it's a great park. I think that even for children, even for families, even at a lower price point, there's just so many better children products out there at similar price points, or in European cases, lower price points, significantly lower price points.
Yeah.
That I think that like having these franchises is what's doing the lifting, and having, you know, SpongeBob and having the characters you can meet, that's what they rely on, but they rely on it a little bit too hard. This park needs a dark ride really, really badly. I've heard some sort of story that they're not allowed to have a dark ride, but then,
I feel like that's BS. Like,
I don't know. Is that really the thing?
That just seems so weird.
They're not allowed to have an indoor ride.
Yeah, I
don't know what that's all about, but
maybe it's true. I don't know, but it's just like, come on, really?
Yeah. So that's just for me. Like that's one of the biggest lacking things. And then I know kids don't really care about originality, but I would wish for this park to get maybe something that's really original. That would be really nice.
The Shrek Swamp Ride has the potential to be great. Like, it has the potential to be a classic. It just deserves more money. Like, I feel like conceptually,
I mean, you can even build like a little hut for it to go through.
Yeah,
I just feel like it's so cheap.
I feel like they were just really aimed low on a conceptual level with some of this stuff, so that they could, you know, achieve the concept. But at what cost? Like, this is why you blue sky shit and then you reduce it down based on budget.
And I heard another argument. I guess you could have done this episode more of like argument and then like discuss an argument that I've heard. But one of the arguments I heard is like, well, you can't think of this as a universal park. You can't think of this as a. But even if I completely don't think of a universal, because I kind of forget it's universal to begin with, because it doesn't feel like a universal park.
Yeah.
These are still valid criticisms. There's still not enough shade. It's still too much sun in your face. It's still cheap finishes and like afterthought fixes. And there's still a lack of a certain type of attraction I think would do well. Like an interactive dark ride, like a Ninjago or a Toy Story Mania or anything like that, right? Like that would do so well with families. That's just sorely missing for me. And even at the low price point, can you expect that? And I just think that kind of stuff is missing. Or like a Triotech dark ride or one of those Bold Move Nation dark rides. Like, now I'm just giving examples of what other kid parks have done around the world, right? Like these are just small, affordable, family interactive dark rides. That's something that's just missing.
I mean, the fact that this is a universal park, I feel like it makes it easier, because
my point is that even if it's not a universal park,
if it was some other, I mean, but if we pretended this wasn't a universal park, we'd have a big problem still, because I wouldn't feel like $60 would justify this. Like with Universal and having intellectual properties and licensing to pay for, it's like, okay, that's where the money went, obviously. Licensing stuff like SpongeBob, but man, like it's because it certainly didn't go into like the park. I'd be curious. I think I've looked it up before. I've tried to find out how much it costs to like build this park, and I can't really find a clear number. And I have a suspicion that like, I bet this place costs way more than it seems like it costs, and that the money just, you know, got laundered or something. Who knows? Or it just went to licensing.
Oh God, it did not get laundered. That's so extra.
It's giving like modern art. It's giving banana taped to an easel selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you think like, why? Where's the money going? Where is it coming from? It's like, well,
it did not get laundered. That's so extreme that you're almost like discrediting the entire podcast. No, it did not get laundered, but it does feel like
I'm kidding.
It's very cheap.
Yeah, but in conclusion, the money did not get laundered. Sean's freaking out. He's like, shit, you're invalidating the entire podcast. It's just a joke. My point is that the fact that this is a universal park in some ways makes it worse and makes it better.
You know what I was just thinking about? I went to this and I completely forgot the name of this park. It's in Germany. And it's a giant playground in the forest. And there's like all these areas that have like these different play structures and splash pads. And there's like this big, racing water slide that we did with the family. And, like those little ones we sit in like a dinghy, A dingy slide. And, they have one of those alpine slide coaster things. That's not really a coaster.
Slide, like
all that kind of stuff, right? And I was thinking about like, you know what, like the whole Splash Pad playground thing is really cute. But again, that also exists on a large scale where there's entire parks that are just big playgrounds. And here they've only really added like a few rides to it. Because there's a lot of these like flat ride playground parks around the world too, like especially in Europe. So I just feel like, again, it's not that original. And I just don't think that nice of a job. Is it as bad as people say it is? No, but people had no nice things to say about it.
Yeah.
I think that it can use a lot of work, and it's not their best work. And if they're going to continue this whole idea, they need to step up a little bit more towards a Legoland kind of concept and put in more details, more effort, and more originality, and maybe better pavement. Or maybe this should just be a kind of a one-off. I just don't know if this is what Universal needs to be doing, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
If the next thing they should be doing is like fixing up Universal Beijing, because ever since it opened, it hasn't gotten any new attractions yet. They haven't started constructing anything new yet.
Selfishly pulling for our
No, I just
park.
think of like, I think in their existing resorts, and they're building Universal, United Kingdom Resort, I think that there is a lot of stuff they can fix on. I don't know if like creating a new park concept that's really not a new concept at all is really what they need to be focusing on. They need to keep focusing on big destinations, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's what they do best.
I mean, I understand why they did this, because there's money to be made. They're a company, and like, I just wish it didn't feel so much like they wanted to make as much money as possible, as quickly as they could, by doing the least that they could possibly get away with, and then charging the most. I know that sounds really harsh, but I just like, Universal does great things all the time. And like, yeah, we're not supposed to judge this park on the same bar as like Universal Orlando, but it's also, they're putting your name on it. This is a brand investment. This is them selling their brands to people. Michael Eisner used to talk about this. He talked about brand investments and brand withdrawals. And like when California Adventure opened and it sucked in 2001, he was like, that was a brand withdrawal. We cashed in on what people thought about our brand by charging them for this experience, and it hurt our reputation. And then we had short-term gain, but it was a long-term loss. And we spent years working back our trust with the marketplace. And it doesn't feel like a brand investment. It feels like a brand withdrawal. It feels like this park is not doing what it's supposed to do. In fact, it might even be doing the opposite. It might be hurting Universal's reputation in a market where people don't have an idea of what the Florida parks look like, and they don't know that the Florida parks are infinitely nicer and better value, because all they know is this $60 Legoland ripoff where their eyeballs get burned by staring at the pavement.
Yeah, something like that.
But I don't know. We'll check on this park again in a few years. I expect it to be successful, and I look forward to seeing it grow, because I'm manifesting that it will grow and be successful, and that the landscaping will continue to grow in, and that maybe they'll get a couple signature rides. But we'll just have to see.
And with that, finishes up yet another little episode. It's a little bit longer than I expected it to be, but this same week we're going to launch Six Flags Over Texas. So make sure you listen to that, because of course we had to ride Tormenta and check out all the. And I had like 3 new credits to ride. So
Yeah.
It was fun to be back there.
Mm-hmm.
And
we rode Dinosaur Off-Road Adventure.
That's right.
Which is nicer than anything at Jurassic World Adventure Camp, unfortunately.
Honestly, now I think about it, it would have been kind of cute if they had like that kind of Jeep ride with dinosaurs instead of Shrek.
It was a lot
thing.
better than Shrek's Swamp ride. Too.
Well, I wouldn't say it was a lot better. Like, don't get overly excited.
I mean, I don't
you
know.
just like old Arrow classic rides.
Yeah, that's true.
But I do think that concept of like doing like a Jeep ride with dinosaurs along the way would have been really fun for Universal Cruise Resort.
Come on, guys.
Would have been a good fit.
The answer's right there.
Anyway, Six Flags Over Texas improved a lot over the last 10 years, and so there's room for improvement for Universal Kids Resort. I'm not writing it off yet. I will come back. I'll visit it again. And I hope
we need to get our Bellow Bay Rapids ride.
that's right. And I hope that you come back and listen to Coaster Kings again. And we'll catch you guys on an episode real soon.
And Leo's 5 stars on the places where you listen to the places and the things. Right?
Yeah, I just couldn't find a good transition.
That's okay. I got you.
You see, I get the best transitions.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I would give Universal Kids Resort 5 stars.
You're so
You
tired of talking about this park. You're like, I just need this to be over.
I literally never in my life want to talk about Universal Kids Resort for 45 minutes ever again. Okay, guys.
All right, bye.